Hi everyone, my name's Anna, and as Matt said, I'm a Java developer on the Confluence team at Atlassian. And today I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I've picked up from personal experience on how to set up a team with Confluence. So, I started at Atlassian about a year and a half ago now, and I actually started as a graduate. Now, the awesome thing about Atlassian is that our grads start off straight away in the teams that they're going to be in. So, quick show of hands, how many of you actually hire grads at your company? Oh, cool, okay. And of you guys, who actually has a dedicated graduate program, some sort of initiation or a rotation system, anything like that? Oh, cool, a couple of you. Maybe I should have just applied at your companies. So, the thing is that it was an awesome way to start off in Confluence. I got put straight in my team and I hit the ground running, doing what I would be doing every day. The only problem was that I didn't actually know anyone else who was going through the same experiences as me because we didn't have any sort of program for it. And so what we decided to do is that we started up Gradlassians, which is a program, a social network, if I put it that way, for all the grads and the interns so that they can keep in touch with each other and they can find out and share their experiences of what's going on and sort of the things that they're finding out as they start to work. So I've been organising this for the last couple of months, and the problem that I found is that we all know Confluence is an excellent way of bringing teams together who already work together. So I think the typical usage pattern that we find is that people will already be working in a team, they install themselves a Confluence instance, and then they start collaborating with that. So things like meeting minutes, status updates, things like that. The problem I had is that I didn't have any idea of how to use Confluence to bring people together when they weren't already working together. So the main case study I'll be using today is Gradlassians, but this is applicable for anything inside your own companies. For example, maybe people who are working in different offices and haven't met each other before, or people who maybe are starting up a new team who haven't worked together before either, and used to work in other teams, things like, or on different projects. So I have 6 simple strategies for you today to help you start out. The first is to start communicating. The second is to make it yours by personalizing your space. The third is to be an event planner, because where possible, the best way to get to know each other is to actually meet face to face. The fourth is to share everything, so that people who need to know about the content that you're publishing will get to know. The fifth is to spread the word, so that you can share the important news that's happening in your team. And the sixth is to stay up to date so that you know yourself what you're interested in and you can keep track of it. So if there's anything that I want you guys to take away from today, it's that if you're starting up a team, basically there's no way you're really going to start working together until you start talking to each other. And you won't really start talking to each other until you get to know each other. So communicate, communicate, communicate. The second tip I have for you is to make it yours. So I don't know how many of you are new users and how many are sort of familiar with Confluence, but Confluence is organized into spaces. And each space has a homepage. So here's a couple of examples that I've got. This is our homepage for the Confluence development team. It's just got a lot of links about what you need to know and some important information. And this is the homepage of our tech writers team. So yeah, there's just anything you can put up various different things, info or info about yourselves. And this is the homepage for the Gradlassian space. So the main thing I want to point out to you guys is that we personalized it pretty highly. We stuck up pictures of our faces because one of the biggest problems I had starting up with Gradlassians is that I actually didn't know what anyone looked like. So we put up a little bit of information about ourselves and who we were and what we looked like so that it was easier to get in contact with each other and recognize each other, which is helpful. The third tip I have for you is to be an event planner. These are the new team calendars. I'm just going to show you today how we use them personally. If you want to find out more information about the team calendars themselves, if you hang around for about 10 minutes, Bill Arcanati is up next and he's going to explain how the team calendars actually work. So we set up 2 calendars. The first was our events calendar, which we schedule our fortnightly lunches on, and also any sort of special events we have. And the second is our birthday calendar, because I thought it would help sort of set up a sense of camaraderie and at least give people a talking point, because then you can just sort of introduce yourself and say happy birthday to someone. But it started, once we put the two together, it started highlighting interesting things like this. We found out that 2 of our birthdays landed around a lunchtime, and it was actually really helpful because it made it possible for that lunch to be more about us, rather than just a sort of regular everyday lunch. It also didn't hurt that I got to choose where to eat that day. And so for the next couple of tips, I'm going to show you how we planned our launch event. So we had our first big get-together at a karaoke bar, which if last night was anything to go by, it seems like it's a common thing in Atlassian offices. So I started off organising. I just sort of set up a page for myself and started listing things. But the thing that I found was that I was working very closely with Jade, who is one of my friends in the talent team, and the problem was that she needed to know about it too. So this is the Manage Watches dialogue. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but it was released a couple of, in I think 3.3 or so a little while ago. And what a watch does is that it's a flag that lets you sort of say, I'm interested in this, send me things like emails when people change it or comment on it. And so I was able to add Jade as a watcher, but the problem that I found is that there was no way that she was going to hear about the page at all until I actually made an edit, and it seemed a bit of a sort of counterintuitive way of doing something. You don't really want to inform someone that something exists just when you change it. So in 3.5, we introduced the share button, which you've probably heard a lot about now. And so, yeah, it was the easiest way of sort of letting her know that it was there. I just typed in her name and added a message, and I managed to send her an email so she could see it. I've also found the share buttons a really good way of getting people to RSVP for things. If you have any events and you need to know who's coming along, I'm sure a lot of you have had this problem before, that you just get like a million emails and phone calls and stuff, and you have to go off and write it down somewhere to say who's coming. So this is the RSVP macro. It's not actually a bundled plugin, but it's freely available on the Plugins Exchange. And all you do is that you just type your name in and hit attend, and it gives you a list on the page. So all I did was I set one of these up, and then I shared it with our Exploder email, which just forwards emails off to people in our group. And one of the interesting things that I just want to point out here is that you can actually share pages with people who don't have a login in Confluence. So you can type in an email address just straight into the text box, and that'll send it off to people even if they don't already have a login. The 5th tip I have for you is to spread the word. So blog posts are for like interesting news that's going on, and so each space has both pages and blog posts in them. And so it's a good idea, especially if your team's distributed and you can't actually, people can't all attend things, or everyone finds it difficult to keep up with what's going on, to write up blog posts and see so people can keep track. So we wrote up a blog post about our event, and it was good for the people who weren't able to attend because they could still feel part of stuff and feel like they were there, pretty much. Although it was probably a good idea if I put some page permissions on the post, because the entire company got to see us doing Beyonce impersonations, which tend to happen at karaoke. But page permissions are probably a talk in themselves. The 6th tip I have for you is to stay up to date. So it's pretty hidden, but we've always had the functionality of watching a whole space if you go into the Advanced tab in your space. But what we added in 3.5 was the ability to watch just space blogs. So the problem, I watch spaces personally, so like the Confluence space and stuff like that, but the problem is that you get sort of emails for every typo someone fixes and every sort of like correction someone makes that they've noticed, and it gets quite noisy. So having a watch just on blogs is good, because that way you can keep up with the news that you're interested in. We also implemented Auto Watch in 3.5, which lets you automatically watch any pages and blog posts that you create, edit, or comment on, much like Facebook does. Basically, every time anyone does anything, it'll email you. So what we've done with that is that it's especially helpful for comments, because I found what happens is that a lot of the time I'd make a comment and then forget to go back and check if anyone had replied to it. So now this automatically watches it for you, so that once someone replies, you can see what they've said and then come back to the page and make a reply yourself. So it becomes much more of a conversation than just sort of static comments on a page. Cool. So if there's anything that I want you guys to take away from today, it's that you won't get anything done until you start talking to each other, and you won't start talking to each other until you get to know each other. And remember, 6 simple strategies for doing this in Confluence: communicate, make it yours, be an event planner, share everything, spread the word, and stay up to date. And that way you can all stay talking to each other in Confluence. Thank you.